I want you to know that you are something special because they never expected for it to be this way. You never miss something that's so great and profound until it is gone. The days of people misusing y'all, looking over y'all, acting like you don't matter, is over. The days of people using you as an emotional stabilizer for their wretched souls is over. The days of them calling you only when they needed something, but when you really needed somebody to talk to, they was never there. Those days are over. Because just like you had no choice but find God, we are in a space where they have no choice but find God too. Your unpredictability gave God the ability to use you. See, for so many years, you were predictable. You were. Sometimes you would react the same way. You had the same triggers, the same emotions, just the same lifestyle. But when you go through heartache, pain, and a transformation, can we talk about it for a few minutes? Because some of us didn't want the transformation. We would rather just leave things the way that it is. But when God just pushes you in to a transformation, sometimes it hurts. It's unbearable. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. And you had a season of straight stillness when nobody talked to you. You were all alone. People that you thought were your friends, they scattered. People that you thought that would have your back, some of them were, but you could probably count them on one hand and a few fingers. I want you to know this though, that your unpredictability is causing people who mistreated you to feel unpredictable, your unpredictability now. See, because they used to be so unpredictable. You never knew what they were going to do. They had you on these emotional roller coasters. Sometimes they would pick up the phone, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they would respond to you, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they would open up a text when it was really important and you really needed them. And sometimes they would just act like you didn't even matter. And sometimes these people will pop up in your life when it was convenient for them, when they needed to get an emotional fix. And what you did by being unpredictable, because you're a new person, you've transformed. Let's just pause it right here. Let's talk about transformation. Transformation is uncomfortable. Nobody really understands what it takes to really transform your life, although it's romanticized and it's talked about with so much passion. But for those of us who really had to go through transformation, we really didn't want to do it. It was some tests and some trials that looked like failure, that were great lessons where God put us on pause and He pushed us into the depths of an uncertain situation where we had no choice but fall back to allow Him to have the space to change us from the inside out. And so now you're not the same person. You don't act the same way. You don't think the same way. You're not interested in the same things. You don't hold the same conversations. You changed up your company. You changed up your look. Everything about you has been upgraded. And what makes you so unpredictable now is people really thought that you were going to stay in a washed down, non upgraded, broken version forever. And so now you're unpredictable to them. And they're having to either change or move on. You never miss something that's so great and profound until it is gone. The days of people misusing y'all, looking over y'all, acting like you don't matter, is over. The days of people using you as an emotional stabilizer for their wretched souls is over. The days of them calling you only when they needed something, but when you really needed somebody to talk to, they was never there. Those days are over. Because just like you had no choice but find God, we are in a space where they have no choice but find God too. Isn't it beautiful? Because I want you to know something. I thank God for every person that He allowed me to really take a look at. Because sometimes you could be so caught up in your brokenness that people being unpredictable in your life felt like an attraction or chemistry. But when God awakens your soul and you're able to sit back and look at people, you realize that you really shouldn't have been talking to them in the first place. Like they didn't even qualify to be in your life. Isn't it something how sometimes we allow people in our spaces that ain't no good, that we want to just build fantasy around? But when the dust settles and you're able to see that person or those people for who they really are, they ain't about nothing. And so you moved on with your life. And they got a problem with it. Because I say this, and I'm going to say it one more time, that some people honored your brokenness. They look forward to it. They got a fix off of it. They felt good to see you struggle. They felt good to know that you were on the other end just holding on for dear life, waiting on them to call you back. They felt good to see your money be all kinds of funny. They felt good to take words and use them as daggers because it's something that you shared with them that was really true to your heart, and they turned around and they weaponized your words and used them against you. They felt good about all of those things. But what they failed to realize is that anything that the evil people do, God will use that to give you spiritual immunity in that area, and it no longer impacts you because you have moved on with your life. You don't do what you used to do. You're so unpredictable because they're not used to the upgraded version of you. So now who's calling who? You don't even care anymore. You know why? Because for real, you decided to put yourself first and allow God to clean you up, and you moved on. And that's something they never thought you had the courage to do. I love you guys. Peace. And I still be believing in you. Have a good day.